Okay, Assalamu alaikum. I am starting now. I hope I am audible to all of you. So we will be talking about air pollution. Just a second. Let me make it okay. So what is pollution? What we actually mean by pollution? So pollution is a damaging alteration in the physical, chemical, or biological features of the natural environment, which occurs due to human activities, and also the toxic substances that have adverse effects on the health. The pollution, or we may say the pollution, is the entry of harmful substances into a natural environment that often leads to instability, mess, damage, or distress to the ecosystem, that is, the physical system or living organisms. What are the pollutants? When we talk about pollution, there are pollutants. So pollutants are basically the waste materials that pollute air, water, or soil. So the intensity of pollutant is established by three factors. These three factors are the chemical type, so type of the chemical that is causing the pollution, and the concentration and the persistence of the pollutant. So basically, the intensity of pollutant is dependent on three factors: the type of the chemical, so chemical type, concentration, and persistence of the pollutants. So pollutants, we may say, maybe foreign matters or energies. Or pollutants may be naturally occurring. The natural matters are regarded as contaminants when they surpass the natural levels. So basically, these natural, what we mean by actually the natural pollutants, they are actually present in certain amount. So whenever that certain amount, that normal amount is increased. So whenever these matters, these natural matters surpass the natural levels, they become contaminants or they cause pollution. Pollution, when we talk about pollution, so basically the pollution has been divided into three types. So when we talk about the forms of the pollution, there are basically three types or forms of the pollution. So basically three types of pollution. One is the air pollution, then others the water pollution, and the third one is soil pollution. So air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution. And when we talk about the other types of, so these are basically the subtype of it could be air pollution. For example, when we talk about noise pollution, so noise pollution is the subtype of air pollution. There may be real pollution whenever there is too much light. So others are the subtypes of these three types of pollution. So these three basic types of the pollution are air pollution, water pollution, and soil pollution. From this picture, we may see what are the pathways to exposure from contamination. So we can see here is the human being. So from here, the air pollution is coming. Here is the deposition, deposition to the ground. This is deposition to the crops, fruits, and vegetables. These are the animals, and this is the ingestion and ingestion of the contaminated material. And then there is the eating of the crops. So all these are here. When we talk about the drinking water, water is the whenever it is the contaminated water, or whenever we may say this is the air pollution, this is the industrial pollution, these are the liquid influence, this is the direct radiation. So these are basically various pathways from where the human beings get contaminated, or the pollution is affecting human beings. Now is the air pollution. When we said air pollution is basically the entry of chemicals or biological materials or the particulate matter into the atmosphere. So, how we define air pollution? This is the entry of the chemicals, biological materials, or particulate matter into the atmosphere that cause harm or distress to human beings or other living beings, or cause damage to the natural or built environment. So when we talk about the environment, so environment, it could be natural or it could be built environment. So air pollution is basically the entry of certain chemicals, biological materials, or particulate matter into the atmosphere. And this entry leads to harm or distress to human beings or other living beings, or cause damage to the environment. And environment could be natural or built environment. So air pollution, therefore, can be natural or man-made in the form of solid particles, liquid droplets, or gases. When we talk about the pollutants for air pollution, the pollutants may be primary or secondary pollutants. So the primary pollutants are directly released from a process, and secondary pollutants are generated in air when primary pollutants react or interact. So primary pollutants directly released from a certain processes, and the secondary pollutants are basically generated from those primary pollutants. So these are generated in the air when primary pollutants are reacting or interacting. So some of the pollutants can be both primary and secondary. It means they are emitted directly and also created from other primary pollutants. So pollutants, as far as the air pollution is concerned, could be primary or secondary. When we talk about primary pollutants, main primary pollutants are sulfur oxides. So mainly sulfur dioxides. So these are created in a different industries and by volcanoes. For example, coal and petroleum have sulfur compounds, and their burning produces sulfur dioxide. So further oxidation of sulfur dioxide with a catalyst, they are forming sulfuric acid, and that sulfuric acid causes acid rain. So these fuels as power sources therefore have an adverse environmental impact, and could be nitrogen oxides, so mainly nitrogen dioxides. These are released from the combustion of a high temperature. So these nitrogen oxides, so mainly nitrogen dioxide. So this is a reddish brown toxic gas with a distinct sharp biting smell, is one of the major air pollutants, nitrogen oxides. Then among primary pollutants is the carbon monoxide. And this carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, but very toxic gas. So unfortunately, carbon dioxide could be a lethal uh, primary pollutant, and this is basically a colorless and odorless. So this is a very toxic gas, and this is a byproduct of incomplete combustion of fuel. For example, natural gas, petroleum, coal, or wood. So from the incomplete burning or combustion of natural gas, of petroleum, of coal, or of wood is producing carbon monoxide. And this is carbon monoxide is a colorless and odorless gas, but it is a very, very toxic, or it could be lethal one. So vehicular exhaust is the major source of carbon monoxide in the environment. And then could be carbon dioxide. Again, this is a colorless, odorless. This is a non-toxic greenhouse gas. Is linked to the ocean acidification. So this is released from burning cement manufacture and at low levels through respiration. Then among the primary pollutants are the volatile organic compounds. So volatile organic compounds are main outdoor air pollutants, and these volatile organic compounds may be grouped into methane and non-methane volatile organic compounds. So the methane is a very powerful greenhouse gas which aids to global warming. And the other hydrocarbons, volatile organic compounds are also important greenhouse gases by their role in producing ozone and in extending life of methane in atmosphere. Among the non-methane volatile organic compounds are the aromatic compounds like benzene, toluene, and xylene. And these are suspected carcinogens, and these may cause leukemia whenever there is a prolonged exposure. So, again, the primary pollutants may be particulate matters, and these particulate matters are minute, solid, or liquid particles, and these are suspended in a gas. These sources may be man-made or natural. So for particulate matters, which are minute, solid, or liquid particles, then suspended in a gas, it could be man-made or natural. So when we talk about man-made from human activities like burning of fossil fuels in vehicles, power plants, and different industries produce massive quantities of particulates. And naturally occurring, when we talk about naturally occurring particulate matters, these come from the volcanoes, dust storms. These are naturally occurring. So as we were talking about the pollutants, these could be man-made or these could be natural. Natural when they exceed certain levels. So naturally occurring particulates come from volcanoes, dust storms, grasslands, and forest fires, living vegetation, and sea spray. So the higher levels of fine particles in the air are strongly associated with adverse health effects, which include heart and lung diseases. And again, primary pollutants may be toxic metals, for example, lead, cadmium, and copper. And also primary pollutants could be chlorofluorocarbons. And these chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, are damaging to the ozone layer. And ozone layer that is protecting us from the ultraviolet radiation. So CFCs may be damaging ozone layers. And these CFCs are chlorofluorocarbons are mainly produced from the air conditioning, and usually whenever they are in this environment, they are usually inert, non-reactive. So they are causing no damage. But whenever these chlorofluorocarbons go in the upper atmosphere, they are damaging these chlorofluorocarbons are damaging the ozone layer. Then is the ammonia. Ammonia is among primary pollutants. Again, one of the important primary pollutant is also ammonia. So ammonia mainly released from agricultural means. So having a typical sharp, spicy odor, and this plays an important role to the nutritional needs of organisms by serving as a precursor to foodstuffs and fertilizers. So it either directly, so ammonia either directly or indirectly is also an ingredient for the synthesis of many pharmaceuticals. So although ammonia is used widely, yet it is corrosive and is also harmful. And then among primary pollutants are odors. So odors from garbage, from sewage, and from industrial meals. So again, these odors may be primary pollutants. Then radioactive pollutants, again primary pollutants. These are generated by nuclear explosions, war explosives, and natural mechanisms like radioactive decay of radon. So this way, primary pollutants. These are the primary pollutants. Then are the secondary pollutants. So particulate matter generated from gaseous primary pollutants and compounds in photochemical smoke. So the classic smoke in some areas occur from burning of huge amounts of coal due to mixing of smoke and sulfur dioxide. The modern smoke is usually generated from vehicular and industrial discharges. So ultraviolet radiation from the sun acts upon these emissions in the atmosphere and it generates secondary pollutants that also mix with the primary pollution and produce photochemical smoke. Among again secondary pollutants, ground level ozone. Ozone is O3. So this ground level ozone generated from nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds. So ozone is a major component of the troposphere, upper atmosphere. So it is also a main element of certain regions of the stratosphere. That is the ozone layer. So due to human activities, mainly the fossil fuel burning, the relative amount of ozone in the atmosphere increases to abnormally high levels and becomes a pollutant and a component of smoke. So this ozone is O3. Okay, so oxygen O3. These were the primary and the secondary pollutants. So when we talk about the sources of air pollution, we may categorize the sources of air pollution into two groups. One is the anthropogenic source, means human activities. So one of the source of the air pollution is the human activities are anthropogenic sources. So this is mostly linked to the burning of various types of fuels. And this contain motor vehicles, marine vessels, aircraft, and the effect of sound, etc. This is because of the human activities when we talk about the source of air pollution. So these because of human activities, among the sources of air pollution, it could be mobile. So mobile sources among all these sources are the motor vehicle emissions in the is the leading cause of air pollution. So this is the among the mobile sources. And the China, USA, Russia, Mexico, and Japan are the world leaders in air pollution emissions. Number one is the China, then Russia, then USA, then Russia, Mexico, and Japan. These are among the leading air pollutants. They are emitting pollution in the atmosphere. So when we categorize into two anthropogenic human activities, then there may be mobile sources and then maybe stationary sources. These stationary sources include the chemical plants, coal-fired power plants, oil refineries, petrochemical plants, nuclear waste disposals, incinerators, large livestock farms, for example, dairy cows, buffaloes, poultry, etc., polyvinyl chloride, plastics and metal production factories, in other heavy industry emissions. So these are because of the human activities, and because of the human activities, among sources of air pollution, these are stationary sources. So one group is of the mobile sources, and another group is of the stationary sources. So these are anthropogenic sources, means because of human activities. Okay, so then okay, so these stationary sources, and then natural sources. So because of the human activities, man-made air pollution sources, and then there are natural sources. So natural sources could be dust from big land areas with little or no vegetation, methane released by animals during digestion of food, for example, cattle. These are the natural resources. So these are normally, as we talked earlier, these normally are present, but actually whenever they exceed the normal level, just a second. Okay, so whenever they exceed the normal level, they become the pollutants. So radon, a radioactive gas formed from decay of radium, can collect from natural sources in buildings. So usually in restrained areas like the basement. So in those buildings like basements, so these are the restrained areas where there is no proper ventilation, or we have seen those buildings where no one is going, remain usually closed. So the radon or radioactive gas, this is formed from the decay of radium, and this can be collected from the this could be collected from the natural sources. So again, this could be the source of air pollution. And this is the second most common cause of lung cancer after cigarette smoking. This is therefore very much important. So among the sources of the air pollution, as far as the natural sources are concerned, the smoke and carbon monoxide from jungle fires. Again, this is the natural source. Then could be the vegetation in certain areas. So during high temperature days, these are they release large amounts of the volatile organic compounds that react with the primary anthropogenic pollutants. Okay, so they maybe nitric oxide, so mainly nitric oxide, sulfur dioxide, and organic carbon compounds, and make a seasonal haze of secondary pollutants. So So volcanic activities that generate sulfur, chlorine, and ash particulates. So these are the natural sources of air pollution. So when we see the sources of emission of air pollution, so industry 52% share comes from industry. 52%. The source of emission of air pollutants 52% is because of the industries. Then 27%. So major part is from the industries, that is 52%. And then comes the part of transportation, 27%. This is 27% from the transportation. Then consumer and commercial products, the 8%. And then commercial and residential heatings, this is 1%. And agriculture is also very much important, 10% source of emission of air pollutants. So these are the sources of emissions of air pollutants. Now, while talking about air pollution, we are talking about indoor air quality. So, what happens actually the indoors where we generally spend the most of the time. So, usually lack ventilation and thus increases the air pollution. So, indoors, whenever there is not proper ventilation, and because of the lacking of the proper ventilation, there is the increased risk of air pollution. So radon, we talked earlier, a known carcinogenic case is radiated from the earth in the certain areas and it's trapped indoors. So wherever there is no proper ventilation, especially in certain restrained buildings or in certain parts of the earth, this radon is increased, is generated more. So the building materials and also when we talk about indoor air pollution, the building materials, carpets, and plywood, etc., discharge formaldehyde gas. And while drying, paints and solvents eject volatile organic compounds. So whenever paints and solvents, while going through the process of drying, so while drying, these are also ejecting volatile organic compounds. So lead paint may disintegrate into dust and be inhaled by the inhabitants. So therefore, nowadays lead-free paints are being used. And unfortunately, here it is written that this is lead-free paint, but in most of the cases, actually it is only written, but it is not a lead-free paint. So lead paint may disintegrate into the dust and be inhaled by the inhabitants. Indoor air quality, a deliberate air pollution is done. We are doing a deliberate air pollution. How we are doing it? With the use of air fresheners and other aromatic objects. So these air fresheners are basically the air pollutants. So this is a deliberate act of causing air pollution. So wood burnings in indoor air quality. We are talking about indoor air pollution. So wood burnings produce a large amount of smoke particulates in the air. The indoor use of pesticides and other toxic chemical sprays with inappropriate ventilation may prove fatal. Indoor use of pesticides and the other toxic chemical sprays. So if there is not appropriate ventilation, this may be lethal act. charcoal burnings with defective emitters and chimneys often cause carbon monoxide poisoning, and it may cause fatalities. So charcoal burning, it is very much important if there is a defective emitter. If there are defective emitters and chimneys, so these may cause the carbon monoxide poisoning, and this could be fatal. Indoor air pollution, if the traps are even inside the building, if the traps are not built in the domestic plumbing, so our inside the home, in the flushing system, in the sewerage system, if the traps are not built in the domestic plumbing, there will be indoor accumulation of severe gas hydrogen sulfide. So hydrogen sulfide could be accumulated if inside the buildings. Inside the buildings, the traps are not built in the domestic plumbing. So this severe gas may be accumulated. This is hydrogen sulfide. In the dry, cleaned cloths usually release tetrachloroethylene and other dry cleaning materials for few days after washing. Dry clean cloths. So we have to keep in our mind also the dry clean cloths. They usually release what they are releasing. They are usually releasing tetrachloroethylene and other dry cleaning materials for a few days after washing. So asbestos containing structure materials release asbestos in the air, and its long-term exposure may cause asbestosis. Again, we are talking about indoor air pollution because most of the time we are spending time inside indoors. So therefore, indoor air quality should be of such a such a level that it may not cause the air pollution. So biological sources of air pollution may also be there. When we are talking about indoor air pollution, so biological sources of air pollution also could be there. Not only pets and people also. Pets and people also give off pathogenic organisms, may give off pets and people give off dander, decomposed hair, dust mites in beds, carpets and furniture, fecal droppings, spores. So house plants, soil and gardens can create pollen, dust, etc. House plants, soil and gardens can create pollen, dust, etc. So air conditioning may develop Meniere's disease. So if a proper indoor air circulation is lacking, there will be accumulation of airborne pollutants exceeding their normal occurrence in nature. So even for air conditioning system. So this may be causing air pollution. So we were talking about indoor air pollution. So air pollution, what are the health effects? We talk about the health effects of the air pollution. Among health globally, we see the air pollution causes more deaths than road traffic accidents, unfortunately, and this is mainly because of human activities. So globally, air pollution is causing more deaths if we compare with the road traffic accidents. Around 2.5 million people die annually due to air pollution related causes. And among them, 1.5 million deaths are due to indoor air pollution. This is very much important. So, a little less than half. Okay. Okay, so more than half of the deaths because of the air pollution are because of the indoor air pollution, where we are standing, we are more of the time of human being is spent inside, so indoor. So it is very much important to maintain the air quality, indoor air quality. It is very much important because globally it is causing 1.5 million deaths. 1.5 million deaths due to indoor air pollution. Air pollution, we talk about the health effects. The health problem that may occur because of the air pollution include difficulty in breathing, wheezing, coughing, and exaggeration of the present respiratory and cardiac issues. The outcome of these health problems could be, what could be the outcome of these health problems? The increased use of medicine, increase in doctor or emergency room visits, more hospital admissions, and also it could be, it could lead to untimely death. Air pollution, the health effects. So there are extensive health effects of poor air quality that mainly affect respiratory and cardiovascular systems. So the individual effect of air pollutants depend on the kind and extent of the exposure of a pollutant. Individual effect of the air pollutants depends on the kind and extent of exposure of pollutant and the people's health status and genetics. This is the health effect of air pollution. So it could be simply eye, ear, nose, throat irritation, difficulty breathing. This is because of this could be because of ozone gas, because of particulate matters, because of sulfur dioxide, because of nitrogen, because of volatile organic compounds, and the respiratory irritation. We are talking about health effects of the air pollution. So respiratory irritation, inflammation, infections, asthma, reduced lung infection, COPD because of the particulate matter, lung cancer. So these are the different health effects. This may be there may be also headache, anxiety because of the sulfur dioxide. So central nervous system could be affected because of the particulate matters. Again, cardiovascular diseases may be there. Right. So again, because of the particulate matter, ozone, sulfur dioxide, and the liver, spleen, blood could be affected because of nitrogen oxides, and low birth. Again, there may be low birth weight, premature birth, small for gestational age, impaired lung development could be there, possible birth defects, and possible autism. Again, this is because of the particulate matter and proximity to the traffic. So whenever there is proximity to the traffic, these could be the effects, LBW, low birth weight, and again the other adverse effects could be there. This is among the health effects of air pollution. And when we see the countries with the highest carbon dioxide emissions per year ton, so we can see the China is at number 1. China carbon dioxide 6103. So global total 21%. 21% of the global emissions of carbon dioxide is from China. 21.5%, and then a little less than 20% is from the USA. So number 1 Air polluter. Air polluter is a number one is China because of carbon dioxide, and number two is USA, and then number three is Russia. So there is a big difference. So 21.5 and 20%. So huge amount. Number one and number two, China and USA. So mainly the air polluters are China and Russia. Then uh, uh, China and USA. Then Russia, we can see 5.5%, India 5.3%, and Japan is 4.6%, then Germany 2.8% of the global total, then UK 2% of the global total, and Canada 1.9%, and South Korea 1.7%, and also Italy 1.7%. So these are the countries with the highest carbon dioxide emissions per year. And when we see the countries with the highest per capita carbon dioxide emissions per capita, these are the countries. And if we see per capita, the number one is Qatar, and number two is per capita. So countries with a higher per capita emissions. Qatar is at number one, then is UAE, United Arab Emirates, so 56% from Qatar, and 32%, 32.8, so almost 33% from UAE. Then number three is Kuwait, 31.2%, and then is Bahrain. Bahrain is 28.8, so almost 29%. And then is Luxembourg, then Netherlands, 22.8%, then Aruba, 22.3%, and per capita, then it comes to United States, that is 19%, and then Australia, 18%. So these are the countries with the highest per capita carbon dioxide emissions. And here we can summarize the causes and the effects of air pollution. So number one, we may see greenhouse effect. So this is coming the greenhouse effect. This is number one. And number two, we may say the particulate contamination. So this is number two. This is particulate contamination. Okay. And number three is the excessive ultraviolet radiation. So ultraviolet, number three, this is coming. The ultraviolet radiation is coming. Number four is the acid rain. We talked about this acid rain. This is the number four. Because of the certain cases, so we have seen there is these are the sulfur oxides and the nitrogen oxides. This is causing the acid rain. Then number five is the enhanced ground level ozone density. Number five, ozone density is increased. And then number six is the raised level of nitrogen oxides. Nitrogen oxides. So these are the causes and effects of air pollution. What could be the reduction efforts when we talk about the air pollution? So for the reduction efforts, so there are different air pollution control technologies in the land use and the transport infrastructure planning strategies. So different air pollution control technologies and also land use and transport infrastructure planning strategies. The land must be used efficiently for the benefit of the population, for the benefit of the economy, and also for the benefit of the environment. So land must be used efficiently for the benefit of the population, of the economy, and also the environment. So reduction efforts for air pollution. So efforts to decrease the mobile sources pollution include the exploration of new sources. For example, cruise and transport ships, farm equipment, and small gas-powered equipment, improved fuel efficiency. For example, hybrid vehicles nowadays being used also here in Pakistan. So exchange to comparatively clean fuels, for example, electric vehicles, bioethanols, or biodiesel. There is also natural purification of air, and we will have to enhance this process of natural purification of air. Natural purification of how it occurs. So we are just talking about the natural purification of air. So we will have to enhance this the process of natural purification of air. So air as a whole undergoes a natural purification and a uniformity by the following factors. Winds. So these cause uniformity through disposal. So winds are causing disposal, and this leads to natural purification of air. Then the movement of air, this is the natural purification. So warm air rises constantly and is being replaced by cold air. Again, this is the natural process. Natural purification of air occurs. Then diffusion of gases, the different gases in atmosphere diffuse with one another. It's a naturally occurring process. So air is a whole, okay, it's going. Then rain is there. So when rain falls, it washes down the suspended impurities of air along it. So rain is a very good natural purifier of air. Then plants. So these help in purifying the atmosphere by giving off oxygen and taking up carbon dioxide. So plants are also very much helpful in the process of natural purification of air. Then oxidation of organic matter, this helps in purifying the atmosphere, and also sunlight. The atmospheric temperature in sunlight plays their part by oxidizing impurities and killing bacteria. So for the prevention and control of air pollution, so number one could be containment. So this is the prevention of escape of toxic materials into air. So we will have to go for the containment. So this containment will prevent the escape of toxic materials into the air. Then for prevention and control of the air pollution, there may be a replacement. So replacing processes is causing air pollution by new processes. So replacing the process that cause air pollution by new processes that do not cause air pollution. For example, the use of electricity and natural gas in place of coal. So replacement could be used for prevention and control of air pollution. Then also dilution. For dilution, there should be the establishment of green belts between industrial and residential areas. So planting trees can absorb large amounts of pollutants that improve air quality significantly. So this is again a step. Dilution is a very much important step for the prevention and control of air pollution. And legislation is required. This is the formulation and strict implementation of laws. So environmental protection agencies here, even in Pakistan, the environmental protection agency is there, but we have seen how these laws are not only the formulation of legislation. So actually, in most of the cases, at this stage, no need of formulation of new legislation because these laws are already there. The most important thing is the strict implementation of laws. Natural action, national. So not only the national action is the establishment of the units of required. So for that international joint collaborative efforts of all members of the nations of the WHO, World Health Organization, are required for the prevention and control of air pollution. Thank you very much. Please, any question, any query? Okay, so may write class participants may write
Sir, I think you can also share your email address for the query so they can write you later on if they have any questions.
okay, so if there is no question, time is over, then we are closing here. Is there any question? Okay, so thank you very much.
As there are no more questions, so sir, I think we can conclude the session. Thank you very much for your
Okay.
time.